All right. Well, let's go to the man himself. And he called Super Bowl 57 along with his partner, Merrill Reese, for 94. WIP has done an amazing job as the Eagles radio color analyst for a very long time after a storied NFL career. And he's an Eagles Hall of Famer. And he joins us right now. Mike Quick, what's going on, Q?
Hey, man. What's happening, Rob and the gang?
What's going on, man? How's it going, bro?
Q, we're still licking the wounds a little bit, man. Not quite there yet on this Thursday. How about you?
Yeah, I understand that. And let me correct you. He's the man. I'm the man next to the man.
But that's not a bad place to be, the man next to the man either. That's not bad.
The little guy is the man. I'm the man next to the man. But yeah, I think we're all probably stinging still just a little bit from the loss. But man, it was at the end of this thing, there's only going to be one of the 32 teams that are satisfied with their season. Yeah. And all the other 31 teams, although you get there right on the doorstep and you don't get it, you're just as disappointed as the teams that didn't even make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely right, man. But when you looked at the game, going into the game,
yeah,
how positive are you that the Eagles can go out and pull a victory out against Big Red and Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I felt pretty good about the Eagles' chances of winning the game. In fact, I remember saying to someone, I'm not even comfortable in how good I feel about their chances. Right. Because I really felt like the Eagles were the better football team, top to bottom, if you look at the rosters. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't always pan out that way, and we all know that. But I just believe that the Eagles were going to win the game. I thought that they're a better football team, well coached. They've done all the things the right way to get to this point. And I thought that they had enough in the room so the night before the game, Nick didn't even speak. He had a lot of the veterans or key veterans get up and kind of talk about, the moment and where they are and taking advantage of the moment. And I know that they have strong veteran leadership on the team. And, after hearing about that, I just felt like this team's ready. They're going to get it done. So, yeah, it's very disappointing and it's hard to swallow. And even, 3-4 days afterwards.
Mike, there's so many different elements to this game that still make you scratch your head in bafflement. And one that really sticks out is Nick Sirianni deciding to go for the 3 points instead of for it on 4th and 6 when his fourth down conversion had been 73% the entire season. Yeah. A.J. Brown came out and said after the game, he said it was at that point I felt the possibility we were going to lose this game. Did you feel that way at that point, that Nick gave up a golden opportunity to really stick it in and to put that much more pressure on the Chiefs?
Well, I don't want to put it all on Nick, right. But the decision-making to that point had been very aggressive.
Yeah.
And I felt like that's just the way they are. That's who they are. And you really, just based on the history, you expect Nick to go for it in that situation.
Yeah.
Especially given, the hit rate for that team, because they can do it in so many ways.
Yeah.
So I just think he went away from like who he is that guy that wants to go for it in those tough situations. And I think at that moment he got away from who he is and what got him to that point.
That's exactly what happened too. Had you heard anything pregame, day before, guys talking about the turf at all? Had you heard any whispers, prior to kickoff that guys are out there falling all over the place, warm-ups or anything? Or was it a big surprise to you the way that it was, as moist, wet, whatever the heck was going on there as it was?
Well, it was a surprise to me because I know that they have backup fields there. Mm-hmm. This is one of these new wave facilities where the actual field itself, they can roll out of the stadium, mm-hmm. roll off to the side, roll in a fresh turf. And that's what they did. But whatever the treatment was prior to that evidently wasn't the best for football. Maybe it was better for the other football where you don't touch the ball with your hands, but it really wasn't conducive to the type of football that these guys play. Mm-hmm. It was very thin, tight turf. It looks like a turf that you can definitely run on. A turf that's built for speed. But the stopping, cutting, and that you have to do in football, it wasn't the best surface for that.
Mm.
And the guy that really really made the turf or produced the turf is a golf guy. So he's probably you'll probably be one of his biggest fans. How much golf you play, man. But
Toma, George Toma.
Yeah, it's a different surface than playing golf than it is playing in the NFL, man. And you saw that the Chiefs didn't change their cleats at all. What was that all about? Were we that unprepared to go in with that field, or what? What do you think?
Hey, maybe they knew something that we didn't, because I didn't pay much attention to the Chiefs and how much or if spikes, but I saw several of the Eagles guys changing their spikes because of how much they were slipping, particularly the defensive backs. When they came out and they were going through their regular pregame drills, I saw a lot of slipping going on there.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about from a defensive standpoint. Their calling card had been getting to the quarterback and finishing them. And I know it's Patrick Mahomes, and that's tough. It's not easy to bring that guy down, but no sacks. Is that probably the aspect that surprised you most about this game, that the defense wasn't able to be more effective than they were?
No question, without a doubt. And, not just the sacks, but the lack of pressures. They didn't have a lot of pressures where they were making him just run around. Yeah, he runs around a little bit because he's Patrick Mahomes. Even when he doesn't have to, he wants to get on the move sometimes because he's so good on the move. But I thought with the two offensive linemen, even Orlando Brown, and I know Brown's really good, Andrew Wiley on the right side, I was sure that he was going to give up a little more sacks, pressures, and it just wasn't happening. I thought that Josh Sweat and
BG
well, BG, of course, but Hassan Reddick. I thought Sweat and Reddick would definitely get a lot more pressure than they did. They would get more hits on the quarterback. That just wasn't there. The offensive line for KC, they did a whole lot better than I expected them to do.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
Well, aided by aided by the smart play calling of Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, though.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, no question about it. Mike, this for a team that was at the highest of highs in terms of success, stats build up this season. Now we're sitting here wondering, will it be the lowest of lows? You're down two coordinators. At least 7 of your defensive players could be potential free agents.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest turnovers that this organization has seen in quite some time. Where do they go from here? Because we assume they're going to build a playoff caliber team. The offense is going to take care of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to be spoiled in some ways by the overall success of this defense, because it's not going to be nearly what we're accustomed to seeing. Where does this team go from here?
Yeah, that's a big one. I like you. I feel like there's going to be huge turnover in the offseason with new coaches coming in. And I don't think we've seen all the coaches that are going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm sure Shane's going to have a couple of guys that he's going to take with him. I know Jonathan Gannon has a couple of guys that he's going to also take out to Arizona. So it's not just the roster of players and those two coordinators.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys who are really tied into those guys that were going through every little detail of the drills, the guys that really got to know these players, several of those guys are no longer here. So now you bring in new guys, and that whole time that it takes to know what these guys are, know what situation you can put them in, and be able to count on those guys in those situations. Dude, there's a whole process here that's going to have to take some time to fill itself out before players know coaches and respect them and trust them, and vice versa. That takes a lot of time. And this doesn't happen just over a training camp, especially the way training camps are run today.
Yes.
It doesn't happen overnight. This takes time. And so with this roster turnover, with this coaching staff turnover, there's a lot to be done there.
Yeah.
No question.
There's that traditional hangover too. When you lose the Super Bowl, it's always tough.
That's right.
Mike, on a positive note, excluding the one, it was a big mistake, but Jalen Hurts was amazing. Just flat out unbelievable in that game. And, let's face it, we hadn't really seen him throw it particularly well, and didn't have to, but particularly well since coming back from the shoulder, right? Did he? I mean, obviously he's going to get paid in the offseason, but how encouraging was that on the grandest of stages?
Well, you said what I think, because he didn't have to. I think he was in a situation where he had to make big throws, and he made big throws, and I thought he was outstanding. The one thing that the Eagles don't have to worry about in the offseason, the quarterback position, other than getting, and he will get paid. But that position, I think they have to bring in a better backup than the backup quarterback that they went with this year. But that position is pretty much locked up. It's a really good place for them to be.
Mike, Miles Sanders down the stretch, obviously was not the same running back that we watched.
Right.
Accumulated 1,000 yards rushing. And then I was told that hit he took on his first carry, swelled his hand up like bees stung him.
Yeah.
So that didn't help his situation as well. You know how the Eagles are with their running backs. They don't look for a primary running back. They like running backs by committee. Is it a foregone conclusion that Miles Sanders will be wearing somebody else's uniform next year?
I tend to think he's going to be in another uniform. Yeah, just based on the whole landscape. I know he rushed for over 1,200 yards this year, and he had a really good year. But yeah, down the stretch when it was crucial, I thought too many times they were willing to go with Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott.
That's right.
Miles Sanders for various reasons. And if that is the case, then I could see them moving on from Miles, because there are going to be some other young guys. You know, Boston Scott, I think, and when they started to really give Kenny Gainwell more opportunities, you saw a lot of production out of him. Burst, he's explosive, he can catch the ball, it's hard to match up with Kenny Gainwell. He's a tough matchup, and he presses the hole. And Boston Scott, I just think that you have to give him, whenever they give Boston Scott opportunities, Boston Scott comes up big. And I just think he can do it anytime you need him or ask him to do it.
Well, let me ask you this then. Let's flip to the other side of the ball. Who would be your number one and number 1A must-sign back player on the defensive side of the ball?
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Do you realistically think that he's going to entertain the money that they're going to try to give him, as opposed to what people are going to try to give out in the open market? I just think you paying a quarterback, it's going to be hard for you to pay Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Well, there's going to be, there's 20 plus added to the salary cap this year. 20 plus million to the salary cap. And when you go through what you have to pay the quarterback, there's still going to be a lot of ways that Howie Roseman can manipulate the salary cap and can manipulate the money that he has to sign certain guys. To me, the main guy that's going to be a free agent on the defensive side, I think, is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I think his addition to the secondary made the secondary a much better secondary.
Absolutely.
Now, forward, if you got Reid, Blankenship back there, you got Marcus Epps, you got Chauncey, you got Devontae, you've got to do something at one of the corner spots. In fact, I think you should do something at both the corner spots and making that position stronger. That's to me how you start to really build this defense.
Interesting, both corner spots.
Yeah.
If Kelsey sticks around, Mike, do you think they would plug in Juergens and say a Malo spot? Do you think that's a possibility if he gets a big money offer somewhere else, say a Malo?
I think that's a strong possibility. Yeah, I think it is. And so there are going to be some guys that you're going to want to keep. And Isaac may be a guy just because of the money that you got to spread to other places of priority. And you got to figure out, and Howie's the best at this, in my opinion, right now. He's a guy that, 4 or 5 years ago, we all were throwing stones at, but right now it's bouquets, because he's done such a good job with this roster. And I just believe that he will come up with a way, and hopefully to keep both. But there's a chance that you lose, say, a Malo, and absolutely Juergens can step in and play that position. You got Jeff Stoutland, and Stoutland is that dude, man.
He is.
How to make it work with these big guys in the trenches.
Is that the toughest part of this, Mike? Not, like, the depth that this team had is so rare in that league. It's so hard to have this many good players, even in the backup positions. Is that probably the toughest part of that pill to swallow with not winning it Sunday?
Yeah, the fact that here, a couple of things. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the other thing that comes to mind when you're saying that is the health that this team, the health that you have the latter part of the season is so important.
Yep.
The guys that you don't have, the key, if you have your key guys, that means so much when you get to the playoffs, get to the games to get into the playoffs, and in the postseason. There's so many. It's so important to have the guys that you want to have, you expect to have, that are key guys to your success. Mm-hmm. This team was very healthy. Many of us didn't understand the way they went about training camp, but I think they started at training camp building for the long haul, expecting to get to the postseason. And they took care of players all along the way. I'm not used to that kind of taking care of people. I'm used to guys working their tails off.
That's right.
Right. We're dinosaurs now,
Used to the grind. I'm used to getting ready by the grind. These guys, they take a more cerebral approach. They have rest days. They
maintenance
have
days.
Like pitch counts, like the baseball pitchers. So they look at things differently, and it worked for them because they were healthy. And having that, to me, is a huge part of it.
Absolutely, man. At this point, how do you do it? Because I don't think there will be a coordinator left. I think Michael Clay's the next one's going to be out, and not because somebody will come in and take him, but his special teams just didn't do anything for me, So I thought that was the Achilles heel of the team. What are the chances he's out there also?
Well, you don't want to see anybody get fired. I don't, but there's a good chance that they move from that position. I thought they got better as the season progressed, but they were still, as you said, the Achilles heel. They were the weak spot for this team, that you could not count on special teams. And when Aaron Sipas went down, that hurt the team
a lot.
You bring in Kern, and he just doesn't have it anymore. And it was the special teams in general had issues, but when the punter went down, it just made this thing so much weaker as a unit. And that there was almost a shank that Tony had to return on. It was a horrible kick. It was low, it was short, and the perfect return ball for a return man.
Yep.
Kadarius Toney grabs it, goes up down the right sideline, and it was all their jerseys on the right sideline.
Well, it was supposed to be a directional kick the opposite side, so it was just messed up altogether.
I mean, that's the thing. As bad as everything else was, if you don't have that, and then Jalen does, if you could have, would have, should have, I got it. But if Jalen doesn't fall, I mean, you still probably survive that onslaught in the second half.
Yeah, but it was tough. But I tell you this, though. I give a lot of credit to Andy Reid and that coaching staff.
Absolutely.
They put on a clinic in terms of how to use motion to affect the defense, how to use motion to get what you want on the other side of the ball and take advantage of it with the motion. They were really good. It was really, it was literally a clinic. You can take this in the off season and start to teach other coaches how to use motion to manipulate a defense.
Yeah, no question. Well, so what's on the agenda now, Mike? A lot of golf? We getting out of town? What are we doing? What's Mike Quick doing for the next couple months here?
Hey, when you guys leave me alone and allow me to stop talking about this game.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
I talked to Mike today. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, hi, nice to talk to you too.
I just want to play golf now. I want to go hang out with my grandbabies and play golf.
Hey, Mike, bad news for you. Bad news, Mike. There's combine, free agency, draft. I don't think we'll ever leave you alone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, D. I just need a break.
But, Mike, when you look, I'm glad you brought that point up because I've been talking about that. How surprised are you how Andy Reid has evolved as a play caller and an offensive structure? Because the motion in their offense consistently, not just in the Super Bowl, consistently is the reason why they have been as dominant as they've been over the last 5-6 years. And nobody has been able to stop it for the most part.
D is such a key element to what they do because they understand adjustments. All right, if you're playing zone, they know exactly what you're going to do. Or they'll send a motion guy just to double check. Okay, they're in zone. Send a motion guy. Okay, they're here. We're going to be here. Okay, they're in man. Send a motion guy. Yeah, they're running with you. We know you're in motion. You're in man, and this is what we do to beat your man. Boom, boom. They're really good at it. And Andy Reid just understanding how to free guys up, using the motion, moving Kelsey around in so many different spots. And it's just it's Andy Reid. He's really good at it. And Eric Bieniemy, I wouldn't take anything away from him. He is unbelievable as a play caller.
Yes.
Those two guys, and what's crazy is, I don't know if you've noticed this, Ted Williams, who was the running backs coach for the Eagles for a lot of years.
Long time.
He was there when I was there.
Yeah.
So Ted's son, Danny, stands behind Andy Reid. You see this little black kid, young guy behind Andy Reid every game, moving whenever Andy moves. That's Ted Williams' son.
Wow.
Who played quarterback at Timber Creek High School, and now he's in the league and he's soaking it all in.
Wow.
In fact, I was texting with Andy the other day, and he said, Danny's sitting here right beside me. Danny moves when Andy moves. He's just soaking in knowledge. Already a very bright young guy, but he's just there and soaking in knowledge for the last few years.
Wow.
Reid.
We know Ted was he was the running backs coach my first couple of years. In fact, he was Deuce's coach, Ricky Waters, Charlie.
Then he
Warner.
moved to tight end.
He moved to tight end coach, and that's what he had like Dunn and all those guys. So one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. Very knowledgeable.
Hey, you mentioned Eric Bieniemy. Bieniemy's interviewing in Washington now for the offensive court. Does it make you nervous if Bieniemy takes over Washington's offense?
I just know that there's another challenge. They've added to the challenges that the Eagles will have going against Washington. Because really, he's really a bright guy when it comes to the strategy for attacking a defense.
Mike, listen, thank you. Thank you, brother, for all your help all year, man.
Thanks,
we appreciate it. And we want you to go relax, go golf.
Hit them straight, bro. Hit them
straight.
Hang
with the grandbabies and get away from all the Gunner's craziness. I mean,
stay out of the creek. Stay out of the creeks.
Yes.
Hey, man. I enjoyed you guys all season long. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, so guys, let's address a couple of these things. So Nick Sirianni on those two touchdowns, and Mike was just illustrating them, the motion and some of the other stuff that they did, the Sky Moore and the other touchdown, the Tony touchdown.
Yeah.
So Sirianni said execution error on the first motion TD. The second one, they got us. We were in a completely different coverage. So in other words, we had it schemed right the first time. The second time, shame on us. I mean, neither one's a good look, but that's according to Nick Sirianni. Then he was asked about the 4th and 2 and said, I don't regret it. 32 out of 32 coaches would not have gone for it there. He said, yeah, obviously now I look back and I see that punt and what happened. Yes, I would second guess myself in that sense, but not at the time before we saw the bad punt. But that's all. So I'm just giving you that. When asked about how do you replace the coordinators, first thing Sirianni brought up was in-house. We have good in-house options, is what he said.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
And he said that he wants the new OC, whoever it is, to call plays, just like Steichen did. He likes being the general. He likes being able to just handle all aspects and jump around and not be focused on. I like that, actually. I'm good.
Well, considering that he already has somebody in-house in Brian Johnson who is watched, listened, and been a part of the offensive structure for 2 years, that tells me even more so that that's the guy that will get elevated. Because even if you bring somebody from the outside in, it's got to take a while for them to learn what Nick is thinking. Brian already knows it. So if he wants the OC to call plays, that's a natural to have Brian move up and assume that role.
It sounds good for Brian. I mean, I don't know what that means for Bernard Wilson on the other side either, but I'm just saying it sounds good, for sure for Brian, to move up. So they're just a couple things, and we'll pass along more as we get it. Hey, want to pass this along also. Tim McCarver passed away, 81 years old. Yeah. A what an impact he had on baseball. But in the city of Philadelphia, he played here in 2 different stints. He was Steve Carlton's main catcher for a lot of those years, played a long time in Major League Baseball, and for more than 20 years was their lead color analyst for all their playoff and national coverage, no matter, whatever the network was. But McCarver was one hell of a broadcaster on top of everything else. So Barrett, longtime Cardinal as well. But he passed away at the age of 81.
I loved listening to him on broadcast. I loved his insights, his enthusiasm, his overall knowledge of the game. We listened to a lot of different broadcasters, but he was above many that we listened to calling baseball games.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. So pass that along. All right, we will let's do this. Let's come back and let's dig a little bit deeper into some of the things that Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman had to say regarding the Super Bowl. And we'll get into a couple other odds and ends. A really nice gesture from Michael Jordan, who's on the eve of his a big birthday for him. We'll get into our birthdays, our movies, all those kind of things as we close things out. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Right back.